We back, baby. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now so that you don't miss a thing. You are now tuned into the system behind the system. Welcome back to the DaVinci podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to discuss stress, or what I like to call overdrive. Now, don't get me wrong. Kicking in into overdrive sometimes, you got to do it if you want to get things done, if you want to be productive, right? You got to grind it out. But being stuck on overdrive is where our health starts to decline, and that's not a good thing. So yes, you need overdrive sometimes. Stress is positive, but if you're on overdrive for too long, it starts to have major impacts on our health. And that's a problem. Our society is fast-paced, and that's okay. We want to get stuff done and be productive, and that's okay. But we got to make sure we regulate those stress levels so that we're not stuck on overdrive. Let's get into it. You know, society makes it cool to be stuck in overdrive. And what I mean by that is you hear the do more, the be more productive, the get more done, the stay up later and wake up earlier and don't take no breaks. Like you hear it all over the place. That's our society. Work, 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 work. And no rest in the equation. You know, if you're sleeping, you ain't making money. All right, that's what they all say. That's what they tell us. But society is wrong. We got to get ourselves out of overdrive sometimes. You want to kick it into high gear for sure and get things done. I'm all about that. I'm all about getting to the money and getting stuff done. Don't get me wrong, but too much of that, you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to tear yourself down. And that's what chronic stress does. That's what staying stuck in overdrive does to us. And that's the key there. That's what research is showing. Stress can be very impactful on our health in a negative way if we experience too much of it. And what is stress? Stress is nothing more than pushing the system to the limits. You stress test the system, right? You see what it can handle. You see what it can do. And I'm a promoter of seeing what you can do and pushing yourself to the limit, right? If you can comfortably lift 20 pounds, I'm going to give you a 35 and say, let's do a set with the 35. Just to push and grow. That's how you do it. You gotta challenge yourself. No challenge, no change. We know that. But I'm not going to have you lift that 35 pounds for endless reps all day long and then wake up and do the same thing over again. Like very quickly, your body will tear down and break down and begin to be unhealthy. You're not going to be in a state of health. Stress is the same way. Stress is good. I mean, even lifting that 35 pounds, you're going to feel a stressor. That's like any stimulus or input on our body, not just lifting weights. Any stimulus or input on our body can have a measurable stress effect. You want to lift, but then you need to put that down and rest. So whatever the input is, you have to put it aside and give it a break and then rest, because too much of it builds up and then we're stuck on overdrive. Sometimes we got to kick it into overdrive, right? Bam, bang out that set. But don't forget to rest while you're at it. And that's the key. And here's how system overload happens. It happens when we kind of default to a state of stress. The body is very adaptive. We're going to adapt to every stimulus that we put on ourselves. You know, you hit bicep curls every single day, you're going to adapt and get bigger biceps. It's like that with everything. If you stress and challenge your mind on a daily basis, your mind is going to grow. You're going to be able to think stronger and sharper, ... so on and so forth. It's like that with stress too, because both of those things I just mentioned are stressors. You know, bicep curls, pick up 20 pounds and do 20 reps real fast. You're going to feel that stress on your bicep. You're going to feel the stimulus on your bicep. It's going to stress out that bicep, and that's how it grows. That's how things improve. Stress is a good thing. It's part of the growth process. So we don't want to stop stressing. We just don't want to get stressed out. You feel me? And the same thing goes for, stressing and challenging and stretching your mind so your mind can grow. That's a little bit different than like lifting a weight, right? But it shows that stressors are positive. Just too much of it is not. And both of those are stressors. So when a lot of those stressors continually hit us on a daily basis from the time we wake up till the time we actually go to sleep. And sometimes while we are asleep, we're receiving stressors on the system. If that continues and happens every single day, now we're in a state of stress. And that's where the problem lies. Stress in and of itself is not bad. You just don't want to get stressed out. You got to kick it into overdrive sometimes. But if you keep it overdrive on, you're going to tear the system down. So every input into the system has a measurable effect, which in some sense stresses the system. Some things stress the system more than others. Let me give you a list of some of the stressful inputs that add up and tend to be culprits of why we're in overdrive for too long and in that state of stress as a default. Number one, dehydration. By far, and this is one of the easiest to remedy because all you have to do is just get a little bit more water in each day. But dehydration, number one, hands down stressor on the system as a whole, because every single function in the body requires water. Our body is mostly made of water, like I think 70 to 80% for most people on average. So if we're dehydrated, if we're dried out, that's definitely going to put a stress on our body to perform certain functions because it's out of a lack of something so important. So dehydration, number one, and it's a simple one, easy one to remedy. And then poor sleep quality, but also poor sleep quantity, not getting enough time in, but also not high quality sleep. There is a difference. And we talked about that in an earlier episode, the dream protocol. We touched on sleep a little bit, but that would definitely be, I would say, number two, because when you're asleep, that's when you're getting your recovery and your reset, and that's when overdrive comes off. That's when the stress levels are supposed to calm down. But if it's not optimized, we're not getting enough sleep, or if something is impacting the quality, like if we're sleeping in a room that has a lot of light in it, that can have a negative impact on the quality, which we don't get that reset, and which becomes a stressor on our body. Alcohol and caffeine are other big ones. So alcohol is actually an ultra processed food. And ultra processed foods have a major impact on our stress levels. I won't get into that too deeply, but that would definitely be number three. Ultra processed foods, alcohol, and caffeine as well. You want to actually drink water in the morning before you drink coffee or caffeine. That'll do a lot for your stress levels. Lack of movement is another stressor. Our body needs movement. It needs exercise. It needs that stuff. It needs the proper administration of working out and exercising. But if we don't move and we're sedentary, which most of us are, and that is what it is, that's why I encourage everybody to move more and drink more water, right? But if we don't exercise, that starts to build up and it starts to have a stress on our body because that's not what our body's made to do. It's not made to be sedentary more often than we are, active. We're meant to be more active. That's the state our body receives all the benefit that comes along with movement and exercise. That's the state we want to function in. So being sedentary, lack of movement, also has an impact on those stress levels. And that's one of the big things that adds up. Chronic inflammation is another one. You can lower inflammation many different ways, but if you have inflammation coming from multiple different sources, that can have a stressor on you as well. And I'll end with one more, okay? This one by far is probably one that people don't think about, and it's overthinking. Sometimes we just have to try to shut our minds off and not let our minds run and run and run and run. You ever be up late at night and you're trying to go to sleep, but your brain just keeps processing and keeps going, and 30, 40 minutes later you're like, man, I should be asleep by now, but my mind just won't stop. Right. We've all been there. That's overthinking, I would say, to its highest extent. When you're trying to stop thinking, but your mind is in that default of this is what we do, this is what we do, and it's hard to turn off. Here's how actually I found to turn it off. What you want to do is before you lay down to go to bed, remove all stimulus. No TV, no tablet, no phone, not even reading a book. Just let your mind calm down and settle. Let your mind run for a little bit too. After all of this stimulus throughout the entire day and moving from one thing to the other, there's a lot still in our mind that we have to process through. So we can't just go right to sleep and we haven't actually finished some of those thoughts. Give yourself some time to think through those thoughts and let the mind finish its process of working through those things, right? As it's analyzing, calculating, thinking, all that stuff. Give it time to actually process through all those thoughts, not while you're trying to go to sleep. I found like 30 minutes where I just relax, chill, maybe have a snack while I'm just letting my mind think calmly without forcing it to finish. Just let it do its process. That one will go a long way. And you'll find that, when you do go to lay back, to lay down and go to sleep, you'll knock right out. You won't have that, gears turning, nonstop. But even overthinking throughout the day is really what I mean. That in and of itself is a huge mental stressor. So try to turn that off, try to calm that down. A lot of this stuff works hand in hand, right? If we exercise more, that will help our mental health, right? Now, if our mental health is better, that'll help our sleep. If we drink more water, right, that'll dot, 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 dot. It all works together because it's one system. That's what we're talking about right now. How small little stimulus and inputs affect this system because they add up over time. And even though that might be a digestive system stressor and this might be a nervous system stressor, it's all still one system. Remember that brain to gut connection, right? It's not disconnected. And those little stressors add up. Don't underestimate them. Be mindful of them, Be aware of them. That little when someone cut you off on the road, and it shocks you for a second, that has an effect. Those small things, they add up. We got to manage them and monitor them. I remember someone came and, knocked on my door one day and was like, I could save you some money on not your car insurance. They was like, I could save you some money on your electric bill. I'm like, all right, I'm down with saving some money. Show me. And they were like, can you grab your electric bill real quick? And I was like, all right, cool. So they went through my electric bill, showed me how much I was paying per kilowatt. And it was like 7.8 cents per kilowatt or whatever. And they were like, I can bring it down to 6.9 cents per kilowatt. And I'm like, all right, but bro, that's not even a penny. Like 0.9 cents? Like that's not even a penny. How's this going to save me money? I'm going to save a couple cents? Like, you're wasting my time, right? And he was like, no, 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 no. And he flipped the paper over and showed me how many kilowatts I was burning on a daily basis. And he was like, so you're burning about 4,000 kilowatts. Well, now that penny starts to add up. 1 cent per kilowatt, 4,000. over the course of the month, over the course of the year. I mean, we're talking, 800, 900, even $1,000 that I could be saving. Those weren't the exact numbers, but you get my point. Like a penny adds up over time. Those little stressors, you may not realize them. You may think they didn't have an impact, but it adds up over time. And it's a long list. But be aware of the inputs you're allowing because you're the one in control, right? You're the one in control. You have control. Just for instance, lift your hand, right? No. Like actually lift up your hand. Nobody can make you do that but yourself. You're the one that's in control, right? You can turn this way or turn this way. You're the one that has control. I was talking with someone the other day and they were like, Neo, I just feel like I don't have no control. And I knew what they were talking about. Life was whirlwinding around them and things were hectic and crazy. And I'm like, but let me remind you that you are in control. You have the power. You're the one that can decide what you do and what you allow around you. And I asked them, I was like, lift up your hand. And I lifted up mine and they didn't lift their hand up. And I was like, no, come on, for real. Lift up your hand. And then they finally did it. And then I was like, well, how come the first time when I said it, the hand didn't lift, right? I didn't have control over you raising your hand. They did. And man, when you realize that you're the one in control, you can decide which stimulus and which inputs you want to receive. And if you're like, no, I don't receive that, y'all remove that from my life. Just be aware of all these stimuli and what's going on around you and what you're allowing in your life. I'm not saying it's bad to drink alcohol. I have me a margarita every now and then. I enjoy it. It's an ultra processed food, but I like it. It's just I'm aware of when I put those things in my body or when I allow certain things to happen. I stay up late sometimes, out with my friends hanging out. I didn't get high quality or quantity sleep that night, but it's a choice. I'm aware of it. But I also know the next night I got to balance that out because I don't want to be in a state of stress. So it's not stress in of itself. It's not, these inputs in and of themselves. It's that state of stress over a long period of time. And those little stressors, they sure do add up. We got to be mindful of them. So the University of California actually published research about a study they did on women who were under chronic stress for a prolonged period of time. And what the research showed was that prolonged stress leads to shortened telomere length. And telomere length is one of the biggest markers for aging. That's how we tell how fast a person is aging. And the research that they did actually showed that in some of the cases, the women shortened their lifespan by 10 years. Crazy. So cellular aging sped up when the person or when the women that they studied were under chronic stress for a prolonged period of time. Wow, that's crazy. There was also another study published by University College of London where they did a long-term study over multiple decades, and they were studying about 10,000 people, a little over 10,000 people. And what they found was those who were under chronic stress had a shorter lifespan and also were more susceptible to heart diseases. Man, if that don't get you wanting to lower them stress levels, I don't know what will. To me, that says it all right there. Stress is actually shortening my lifespan. Man, no, this is something I need to be, worried about and aware of. We need to get on it right away. Make it easy, though. How do you lower those stress levels or manage the inputs and the stimulus that your body's receiving, right? How do you keep it regulated? Very simple. It's through the nervous system. The nervous system is what regulates all of that stuff. And you can actually control your system so that that stress doesn't build up and you're not stuck on overdrive all the time. So what is the nervous system's role in all of this? The nervous system is the communication network, or one of the communication networks. It's also what sends the stimulus that we receive, whether through our eyes, nose, ears, touch, right? All the senses. However we receive the stimulus, it's the system that sends and communicates the message and the signals to the brain so we can interpret it. So if we're going to regulate how we receive and manage and monitor these inputs that we're receiving, we need to think about the nervous system's role. And you can regulate the nervous system through multiple different ways. One of my favorite ways is breath work. That's why they tell you when you're like, anxious or, upset, they're like, just breathe. Take a deep breath, right? Count to 3 and breathe. Like what that's doing is calming the nervous system. That's nervous system regulation right there. And we do breath work in the DaVinci Center for that exact reason. And it works. It has worked. Like you can actually calm your nervous system. When you're anxious and you're upset and it's in shock, breathe, calm down, relax. That's how you regulate the nervous system. My favorite way is breath work. So one of the breathing drills I'll do or I'll give to some of our members is a 4 in and a 4 out. A 4-second inhale and a 4-second exhale. It's that easy. That will begin to calm the nervous system right away. If you're ever feeling high stress or you're in a state where you're like, man, I'm like, my system's being pushed to the limit, you're stressed out, just start practicing some breath work, and I guarantee you it will positively impact the situation. Think of that 4-second in, 4-second out. So that's where I would start. But also, realistically, just reducing the amount of stimulus and the amount of inputs on a daily basis. From the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, think about everything that you do, everything that, you see, you smell, you touch, you communicate with, and all the stimulus and input that you receive throughout an entire day's worth. Think about it, analyze it, evaluate it, and see what you can remove. That's simple. Just lowering the amount of inputs themselves will go a long way into regulating the nervous system so we can calm things down and reset those stress levels. So what are some of those things that, you can avoid and not even allow into your day? And then just slowing down sometimes. It's okay if you don't get it all done. It's better to, not go into overdrive and literally shorten your lifespan just to get it done. Sometimes it's better just to save it to tomorrow. It'll still be there. You'll still get it done. You'll still be successful, but you'll be healthier in the process. So sometimes just slow down. Don't be in such a rush and don't stress yourself out to push and complete a project or whatever it is you're working on. Just slow down. I throw one more in there too, and that's myofascial release. Myofascial release. And you can actually do all of these while you're doing myofascial release. And we do. We have a class called the DaVinci Recalibrate where we're working on breath work. We're removing all input. The only input that we're receiving is breath work, myofascial release, which myofascial release is where, you pinpoint a certain spot in the body and you hold pressure there and the body responds, especially if the nervous system is calm and regulated because we've removed all input, we slowed things down, we're working on breath work and then applying that input of consistent pressure or tension to a certain spot in a certain way that'll unlock and release tension, which releases stress because we hold stress. You ever have that spot build up where you're just, your stress levels are higher and you're like, yeah, it's starting to build up as stress levels climb. Like that is the tension that our body is holding. And that's in the fascia system. That will kind of restrict your fascia system that to the point where it starts to cause pain. And we got to release that. And myofascial release does that. So it's not that you're forcing your body to relax. You're just giving it an environment where it can kind of downshift and come back to a calmer, more balanced state. That way we don't keep it, on overload, system overload. And then now that's our new normal because we'll adapt to that and our body will start to expect it. We don't want that. So try those 4 things. And if you have any questions about myofascial release, let me know. I'll hook you up. I'll even give you a couple that you can start with. Just hit me up at International DaVinci online anywhere, and I'll make sure you get right. But try those 4 things, and again, it's all about just letting the nervous system relax, regulate, calm itself down, so that you can manage and monitor your stress levels. That's how you shift gears. That's how you turn off overdrive. Sometimes you got to kick it in high gear, right? Sometimes you got to, crank that overdrive up. I'm talking about up and get right to the bag, right? You know what I'm talking about. But if we don't turn that overdrive off, it can have a negative impact on our health. And longevity is one of the clearest indicators of good health, and not just the quantity of life, but the quality of life too. Managing your stress levels and turning that overdrive off, even though we need it, but turning that overdrive off will extend our lifespan and improve our quality of life. That's what it's all about. That's what getting healthy is all about. That's why you do it. I mean, you want to look good too, but that's quality of life. That you could put that in the quality of life. It's all about improving our lifespan, quantity wise, and that quality too. And so the longer that you continue to turn that overdrive off, give it a couple weeks at first, you'll start to see some really big benefits. And you'll find that you're more productive. You're enjoying life more. You're getting more things done at a higher quality level of work. And so whatever it was that was, caused you were trying to stress to get a project done or be more successful, whatever it might be, you'll find you'll still be able to, and actually sometimes achieve it faster because you're capable. Stress brings our capability down. And so we have to kind of slow down, reset, regroup, get ourselves back into a different state than a stressed state. So get ourselves back into a state where we can build up and be ready for that next input or that next output that we put out. So don't think, as you're taking time to manage your stress and calm down that you're not being productive. I mean, I'll be the first to give you a dumbbell and say, let's work out. So don't get me wrong when I say this, but sometimes we just got to put the dumbbells to the side and work on the things that are really impacting our health. Sometimes we got to just, remove some of the beneficial stressors like exercise, because that does add to the stress pile, even a good thing like exercise. And sometimes we need to spend that time doing breath work, doing myofascial release, because our health is more important than anything. And the fitness industry will tell you you should just work out, work out, work out, work out, work out, work out, burn more calories, sweat, 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 sweat if you want these results. But a lot of research is actually showing if you hone in on that stress, you will lose weight, you will have more energy, you will not burn out so quickly. And having energy and burning out are 2 different things. Burning out is like you're completely exhausted, you're completely tapped, and you got to let that reservoir build back up. We can't just keep it at tapped out, and then we're trying to push harder and push harder. Like that is the stressed state that I was talking about right there. So give your body time to relax and reset and watch how you begin to grow in every facet. It's as simple as turning off the overdrive. I ain't gonna lie, I like pushing that overdrive button. I'm notorious for pushing. Actually, I be leaving the overdrive on. I be stuck on overdrive sometimes. This is one that hits me hard because, like, I'm a hustler. I'm a grinder. I like putting in that hard work, but that's not productive. First and foremost, I want to get the task done. And so if I'm pushing all the way to the limit and then some, and I'm tapping out and burning out and crashing and burning, like, I can't get stuff done that way. But boy, do I like being on overdrive and just grinding it out. But we got to make sure we turn it off sometimes. So when the world tells you work harder, grind it out, keep going, don't take no breaks. If you sleeping, you ain't making no money, right? Hustle, work, stay up later, wake up earlier, be the hardest worker in the room, yada, yada, yada. When the world tells you that, you tell the world you're stressing me out and I ain't gonna take it no longer. Don't get me wrong, sometimes we do gotta kick that overdrive in gear, but sometimes we need to turn it off. Do you have an off button for that overdrive? That's my question for you today. Thank you for joining on this episode of the DaVinci podcast. As you know, we're going to be bringing you the heat every single week. Go check us out at DaVinciEngineer.com for more information on what we do, how we do it, some of the products that we have available right now. And if you have any questions, put it in the comments below or hit me up at International DaVinci, and I'm right there. I'll see you next week on the DaVinci podcast.